Hey, it's America's Supermom. Thank you for joining me on my podcast. This series is the Corona Chronicles. I created this so that we would have an outlet of positivity in the midst of a lot of negativity. You know what I'm talking about. All the news, the fear around this virus, how it can affect us, what the new normal is looking like, and how so many things have changed that a lot of people feel like um, it is the end of the world, so to speak. So, this podcast was created so that those of us who have hope, who are willing to move forward with this new normal and innovate new things that will help us to be creative and positive. That is what this platform is for us to come together and share that positivity and that light with those who may need it. So if you're interested in sharing your insight, please reach out because we can never have enough positive news. So sit back and enjoy the show.
I want to thank you guys for joining me today. I'm really excited about my next guest, Jonathan Howard. We met um, through Melanie Richards, who is a great connector that I was fortunate to meet this year. And we are in several different groups and different platforms where we've met and seen each other on Zoom. And I'm excited to have him here today because he is just everything social. That's the best way I can describe him. He knows the ins and outs, the ups and downs of social media in a way that takes some of the overwhelm from many of us who are struggling to maintain a presence with our exposure on within the social media world. So at this time, I'm going to give Jonathan the opportunity to introduce himself before we get into some social media questions.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So my name's Jonathan Howard, and I own JRH Graphics and my new business, which is Success on Social, which is a really pretty much a website and a group of classes that help people get rid of the overwhelm that comes with social media, one step at a time, because there's a lot of people that go through a lot on social media,
Hmm.
and it's kind of a never-ending process. It feels for a lot of people. So I understand that it happens to everybody. That it's just like
Hmm.
even I sit there, and there's days technology doesn't work,
Hmm.
and you just feel like this should be easier, and
Right.
I try to make it easier for people.
Awesome. So I love this topic because, as many of us are going through maybe reinventing ourselves or, we are used to being face to face. Now we're on the computer a lot more because of this pandemic. I guess the first question I would ask is what should somebody start with when it comes to building a presence on social media? What are the top um, things to be mindful of?
So the top things to be mindful of, and this is people like, oh, I got to be on all the platforms, and I got to make sure that I'm posting on all the platforms all the time. And the first thing you should think of is, where's your audience, and figure out who you want to reach,
Mm-hmm.
and then figure out where they are, because your audience may not be on Twitter, your audience may not be on LinkedIn, they may not be on Instagram, and you don't have to be there if that's not where your audience is. So where is a majority of your audience,
Mm-hmm.
and how can you reach them? And then I always tell people, come up with a plan that involves consistency that can be maintained, because a lot of people jump in and they say, I'm going to post on all of my platforms 7 days a week, and I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it until I can't do it anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
usually they can't do it anymore after a couple weeks.
Right.
So they go all in, they get like this big burst for a couple weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes them a few months sometimes to get back on it, and then they try and they're back to square one,
Mhm.
because they've reached a lot of people, but they haven't really connected. They haven't built those relationships yet. And those people that they reached at first are gone. Now they got to try again. And they
Right.
keep this cycle, which is part of where the overwhelm comes from. If you were to do 3 days a week, I always say people can usually do 3 days a week. If they can do 3 days a week and they show up consistently for those 3 days, that's better than 5 days, than 0 days, than 7 days, than 0 days.
Mhm. Mhm. Good. Now, so for people who say, okay, I get that. I'm just going to do one platform, just to kind of get myself familiar with what that's going to take in terms of time and investment. What are some key things they should be doing when they focus on that platform? Should they be checking on other people's feeds, doing their own? I mean, what kind of things are like the top things to focus on that one platform?
On that one platform. So I would say the first thing is plan out what you want to post and what you want to talk about, and ignore what everybody else is talking about. Because
Okay.
if you're going to have followers, they're going to be followers because they care about you and they care about what you're doing, and they care
Mhm.
about your differentiators. So what makes
Mhm.
you different from everybody else that's out there? Instead of going on and saying everybody else is doing this, so I'm going to do this. Because what everybody else is doing may not be you. It may not be something that you're comfortable doing. It may not be really in your zone.
Mhm.
You know, focus on what your zone of genius is, what makes you special, and try to target people in an audience that value that. Um,
Mhm.
and don't waste the time with the scroll. Yes, you do need to know what other people are looking at, what other people are doing, but you don't need to waste your time scrolling incessantly to find that perfect other thing that you want to find, that you want to do, that you want to be.
Mm. That's good. Now, so we talked about being able to actually know where our audience is,
Mm-hmm.
to know which platform to go on. So, what are some keys? Because a lot of people feel like, oh, I know my audience. They're like me, and whatever I'm on, they're on. So, what are some ways for people to really hone in and see where their audience is?
So, part of it is one, really, if they're like you, then where where are you really? Like when you go onto social media, what's your first stop, and what do you do? And so, I will say that a lot of people have an ideal avatar that is similar to them. Similar
Mm-hmm.
to them, though, about 2 years ago, about 3 years ago, because as you're developing your business, you develop differently. So you really have to think,
Mm-hmm.
your avatar is like you 2, 3 years ago. What were you doing 2, 3 years ago? How were you using social media 2, 3 years ago? Where were you in your business, and what questions did you have in your business 2, 3 years ago that you, now that you're 2, 3 years ahead of that, can answer for them and make their lives easier?
Mm.
So
That's
answering questions, adding value, and that gap that you have there, because you don't need to be. People always struggle with this. I'm not an expert, but they are an expert. They've gotten
mm-hmm.
past, these 2, 3 years has made them an expert to the people that are their followers, because
Mm,
they've gotten past those things that these people are struggling with now.
mhm.
They know how to get past it. So
That
that
is so good.
is a huge value.
Mhm. Now, so this is sometimes key with a lot of people where, you're 3 years ahead, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So, knowing when you're the only one doing your business, how to transition with that,
Oh
because
my,
your message for your avatar is different than the message when you're coaching them or sharing your expertise. So how do you balance that? Does that question make sense?
yes, that question makes a lot of sense, because a lot
Mhm.
of times you're trying to get people to a point with coaching
Mhm.
that they don't see themselves being able to get to.
Mhm.
And you need to kind of bring that down a little bit if you're talking to people that are your avatar that you just need them to get a couple steps ahead to go to the
Mm.
next thing, to the next thing. So I always, on social media and with people that I'm working with on social media, I always say that you're trying to level up. You're trying to get to that next point, whatever that
Mhm.
next point is. And I
Mhm.
don't lay out a whole plan of action
Mm.
that's going to overwhelm them because they're already overwhelmed by social media as it is.
Mhm.
So laying out a whole plan is going to be like, oh my God, I can't do it. And then my favorite emoji with the head exploding happens to them. And then they go way back.
Mhm.
So, or my emoji where they're cursing, they go and they're done. They can't do it because it's too much. So if I'm coaching, I lay out a much longer plan. I lay out bigger goals and I lay out the steps to get to those goals as
Mhm.
well as how I got there.
Mm.
And I may have gotten there the wrong way,
Mhm.
which in some situations, we learn from our mistakes. Yeah. So
Okay.
sometimes you don't get there the right way, and that's okay. And I a lot of times want people to learn from my mistakes. I tell them
Mhm.
I didn't get here the right way. I thought I could do it this way. I thought I could reach it this way. And I didn't. And here's what I learned. When I'm
Mm.
coaching, it's easier to do that because I have a little bit more time with them. I have a little bit more, you know, I can work with them to get to a certain point. And it's a very different experience with,
Mhm.
um, but when you're trying to reach your avatar online, especially, you really have to speak to specific things. What is
Okay.
their pain point right now?
Mhm.
What are they
Mhm.
struggling with right now? And it obviously with the pandemic, things changed. I
Mhm.
finished teaching. I teach an online class, a 6-week class, and I finished teaching it. I felt so bad, but literally the Monday before we went on lockdown. So they had a week of understanding how social media worked based on how I taught them in that 6-week class, and then it flipped on their heads.
Right.
And I went back with them and I did a couple extra sessions with them and just kind of talked about how it changed, and a lot of them understood that it changes and things you know are going to evolve, but it was a major change.
Mhm.
So it was
Mhm.
definitely something that they felt a lot of impact to, but we got them, we get through it. And
Mhm.
they actually entered social media and having the knowledge of to enter social media at the right time, because a lot of them now have groups. One of them, their entire business is completely online. She ran a gym. She can't run a gym in New York right now, so she's doing everything online.
Mm.
So
Yeah, that's good. So it makes it that insight gives them the opportunity to pivot.
yeah.
Now, so what um routine do you have to kind of stay relevant with what's going on, and so that you're focused on that rather than focused on what other people are doing? So, for example, let's say we've got a new software. I think Microsoft has some different thing that came out.
hmm
Um, How do you balance seeing what's new and what other people are doing?
you know
You know what I mean?
yeah, I know what you mean. And I am an early adopter on things, but
Mhm.
I don't necessarily adopt them early and put them into my business. So I'll watch things. I've been on TikTok for 9 months now, probably
Mhm.
longer. Meanwhile, going when, well, my dogs have been on TikTok for 9 months. I felt really, average age being 13 and me being 40, I felt really weird being on TikTok out as myself. So my dogs have had a TikTok account for 9 months. Uh,
Okay.
and I use it, but you watch and you test and you see the impact and you see what's happening.
Mhm.
And then you decide if it's going to be something that you can roll into what you're doing and expand on things that make sense now. And if it's going to be something that's going to help you level up, or if it's just going to be something that's going to get in your way.
Mm.
So, you know, I think that TikTok is great for the kids that are 13, but it's never going to be something that we really need to be on.
Mhm.
But we should
Mhm.
learn it because Instagram is taking over that technology already. We see some of it being rolled out.
Mhm.
So as we see that technology coming up on other platforms, we should know how to use it. But it isn't something that I'm not telling everybody run out. Okay, I did tell everybody grab your handle on TikTok because you could need it, but not to really use it.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
grab that handle because if it
Mhm.
becomes something that you want, you're going to want to have the hand because as new social media comes out, you want to have matching handles as much as possible. But
Mhm.
other than that,
Mhm.
so
That's good. Okay. So that's some good tips because, just like as we see, there's so many different things that come and go,
yes,
just in general,
yeah.
and just with technology systems, platforms, and things of that nature. So, what is your regular timeline? So for you to be the guru that you are, how much time do you spend uh, on your social media? So this is kind of like for us who are
Oh,
listening, a goal that we want to work towards.
yeah,
What's a realistic goal for the time investment that we should be spending on social media?
I manage 5 clients full time. So
Okay.
me. So on my social media, under my sign on, I spend an hour and a half a week creating my content, scheduling my content, and
Mhm.
putting my content out there. And then I spend an hour a week on mine, engaging with people about.
Mm.
Then there are other things that I do that end up on social media. I do lives and stuff like that that I don't count into that time
Mhm.
because I'm doing them on social media, but I'm using them in a lot of different places. So I'll record something on
Mm.
Facebook as a Facebook Live that I'm then using really towards the next week's content on other platforms.
Mm.
So I try to keep the time that I'm spending. Now I have to spend probably 2 hours per client plus. So I'm on social media 10 to 15 hours a week.
Mhm.
But I'm spending about 2.5 hours of that time on my social media. And I don't think people should spend more than an hour creating their content because that
Mm.
then gives them at least an hour or two to engage with the content off the normal time that they're spending.
That's good. Okay. So that's good to know because a lot of people, this is where we get to the point of where we're being busy
Right.
and not being productive
Mm,
or efficient with our time.
yeah.
So that's good.
And
Now, so go ahead.
block out that time, schedule it in a block, and say, today when I post my content, I'm going to then spend 25 minutes engaging in and set a limit like you want to engage in 50 other accounts. You can do that in 25
Mm.
minutes. 4 words
Mm.
is not that hard to write.
Right. That's good. That's good. Okay. Now, so the other thing is, what are some ways that we can make that time more efficient, like ways that we can repurpose our content? So you mentioned that you'll do a Facebook Live and use that um, recording for something else throughout the week. But
Mm-hmm.
give somebody like, 3 or 4 different ways that they could take a post and repurpose it.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
So video content is great because you can create it in a larger chunk and then break it
Mhm.
up, or you can make it into a large. Let's use my webinar yesterday.
Okay.
I did a webinar yesterday, and I'm going to take that and I'm going to break that up into 3 separate videos to use as class videos. I'm also going to take sections of that and write a blog about those particular things that I'm going to do. So then I have a blog written off of my webinar that has 3 sections that are going to go into my class website. So my blog is going to talk about 5 topics that I
Mhm.
touched on within my 9 essential posts. And one of them is going to be how I'm using it to break things down into a blog. And use
Mm.
so I can then take the five topics that I talk about in that blog and create 5 separate posts for social media.
Mm.
So then I have, with writing that blog off of my webinar, I
Mhm.
have a webinar, I have a class that can be taught in 3 parts, I have a blog, I have 5 blog posts, or 5 social media posts that can be repurposed onto multiple platforms. I
That's
can take
good.
an IGTV video that's longer and then a few weeks later tease that IGTV video that's already there with a short post of that same video, directing them
Mm.
to the longer video
That's
and getting
good.
onto your content, onto your website, directing them wherever you can back to you so that you're actually getting email addresses, so that you're actually collecting information about your followers so that you can build on these followers.
That's good. Now that's some good insight. I mean, hey. Now, so how do you organize that? So, like, do you decide, like, so when you're doing your content calendar or whatever for the week, do you say, hey, okay, I'm going to do this webinar and then put that webinar different places? Is this like a monthly thing that you do? How does that work?
So I have what I call and what I use for all of my clients is my 9 essential posts.
Mhm.
And my 9 essential posts kind of cover broad stroke areas that you should be creating content in. It's highly engaging content when you create content about your followers, when you create content about your behind the scenes stuff, when you create content about food, about your
Mhm.
neighborhood. All of those things are highly engaging content. So I base all of the content I create on the 9 essential posts. It falls into one of those categories. And I go, this really happened today, and I can do a larger post about it. Then I create that larger post. And it can go both ways. Like you can create smaller posts, and then
Mhm.
suddenly somebody has a lot of questions about one thing that you created on Instagram. And it gives you, like, well, if you were to do this, you'd have to do these 5 things to accomplish it. And then you write a
Mm.
longer post that includes those 5 things, or a blog post that includes those 5 things. And it's almost like you create a series.
Mm.
And you create a series in your mind, and this is how you're going to do it. So you're creating that series, and then it becomes, and if that does really well, maybe you do a webinar on it because people really need that information. They want to take that information and make it something else.
Mhm.
So it is definitely, I have a framework, but I I'm very flexible in how I create things because I can create them, going up towards a piece bigger and going down, depending on what my audience wants.
Mhm.
And you really
That's
have to measure what does well. That's the key.
That's good. I like that. Now, so tell everybody the best way to get a hold of you, because I mean, this is some good stuff, and I'm sure there's people who are like, "Hey, this is definitely what I need. Somebody that can help me with this because I have just been overwhelmed." And you just make it seem so simple and easy and stress free. So this definitely is something that people would definitely be interested in.
Sure, absolutely. So they can find me on any of the social media, but my Instagram handle is JRH_graphics.
Mhm.
Find me on Facebook, JRH Graphics, and I also they can look directly on my for my LMS, my learning management website, which is successon.social. No .com necessary. Successon.social, and it'll come up and they can see all the different tools and stuff I have there. There's actually a basic membership that is free. So if they want access to any of the free courses, any of the free tools, they can grab that right there. So that's a great opportunity for them to get some free stuff, see what they need, see what works for them. And then as they advance with it, they can contact me and get some help.
Awesome. And then what final words would you like to leave with the audience?
Well, how about it's okay. Social media is not your enemy. Social media should
Mhm.
work for you, and you can make it work for you. Just take it slow, level up, and remember, you got this. It's not that hard. It really isn't.
But those are some wise words. I tell you, you definitely back up what you're saying. This is
Oh, well,
so
thank
true.
you.
So I encourage everybody to reach out and get a hold of you. Take a look at your group pages and things that you've done on Facebook because you give out some great content, very informative. So I want to thank you so much for your time, Jonathan, and looking forward to having you back because I mean this is an area that one interview definitely can't cover all the information and questions that many people have.
Yeah, and if people have,
So,
I'd love to answer them. So that'd be
mhm.
fun.
All right.
All right,
Well, thanks so much again and look forward to talking to you again soon, okay?
all right. Take care. Bye.
All right.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me on this episode. I really enjoy providing content that inspires and challenges us to be a better version of ourselves. If you are interested in being a guest on the show, please email me at info@lachelleadkins.com. You can also reach out to me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, or my YouTube channel. If there was something in this episode that resonated with you, it probably will resonate with someone else. So please share it. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. But those aha moments, those moments of really getting something and changing your perspective are very, very pivotal in having people change the trajectory of their lives. And so being able to share insightful information so that other people can grow is the easiest thing that we can do as we pay it forward. So again, I want to thank you all for listening. And if you have time, write out a review. Go to iTunes, Anchor, wherever you can find this podcast on any of those platforms and write a review about what impact this episode had on you, what you learned, or whatever. Any feedback is great because it just helps me to understand what content is really beneficial for those that are listening. So, again, I want to thank you all for your support and taking the time to spend some time with me and my guests. And I wish you a wonderful day. Thanks for listening.